Imagine you're walking through the backstage corridors of a wrestling arena. The smell of sweat and adrenaline hangs in the air. The roar of the crowd echoes through the concrete walls. And somewhere in those dimly lit hallways, something is about to go very, very wrong for one of the most self-proclaimed best wrestlers in the world today. You ready? Because what happened backstage involving Finn Bálor and CM Punk is the kind of story that wrestling fans are going to be talking about for a very long time. So buckle up, because this one hits different. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact, the channel where we don't just cover wrestling, we live it, we breathe it, we feel every suplex, every chair shot, every betrayal right alongside you. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because you are in exactly the right place. And if you're a long-time member of this community, you already know when something massive goes down in the world of wrestling, we are here. And tonight, we are breaking down every single detail of what went down between Finn Bálor and CM Punk in what can only be described as one of the most jaw-dropping, spine-chilling, absolutely electric backstage confrontations that the wrestling world has seen in recent memory. Now before we dive in, I need you to understand something. This is not just a story about two wrestlers having a disagreement. This is not just a backstage scuffle that you scroll past on your feed. No. This is about pride. This is about legacy. This is about two men who both believe with every fiber of their being that they are the guy. And when two people like that end up in the same hallway, on the same night, with the same fire burning in their eyes, something has to give. And tonight, it was CM Punk who found out exactly what happens when you push Finn Bálor too far. Let's go back to where this all started, because great stories don't begin in the middle, they begin at the root. And the root of this rivalry runs deep. For weeks now, the tension between these two has been simmering just below the surface. Every time they shared a segment, every time they were in the same room, you could feel it, that crackling electricity, that unspoken war that hadn't quite exploded yet. But those who pay attention, and we pay attention here on Wrestling Impact, knew it was only a matter of time. CM Punk, as we all know, carries himself with a certain kind of arrogance that is simultaneously infuriating and magnetic. The man walks into a room and immediately begins calculating every angle, every political move, every word he's going to say to make sure that when he leaves that room, he is the one who came out on top. That's just who Punk is. It's what makes him brilliant. It's also what makes him dangerous, because sometimes, that chess player mentality leads him to underestimate someone. And on this night, CM Punk made the single biggest miscalculation of his recent career. He underestimated Finn Bálor. Now let's talk about Finn for a second, because I think a lot of people, even hardcore wrestling fans, sometimes forget exactly who and what Finn Bálor is. Here is a man who traveled the world before most of us even knew his name. He headlined arenas in Japan. He trained under legends. He reinvented himself not once, not twice, but multiple times throughout his career. And through all of it, every setback, every injury, every moment where the world counted him out, Finn Bálor got back up. Every single time. And there's another side to Finn that people tend to forget about, and it's the most important side. Underneath the calm, composed, almost stoic exterior that Finn presents to the world, there is a darkness. There is a demon. And that demon does not play politics. That demon does not negotiate. That demon does not back down. Not from anyone. Not even from CM Punk. So here's how it went down. The night had already been electric. The arena was packed. The card was stacked. And backstage, the energy was running at an absolute fever pitch, the kind of tension that makes production staff nervous and security guards inch just a little bit closer to the hallways. Multiple sources close to the situation have described the atmosphere backstage that night as a powder keg waiting for a spark. And CM Punk intentionally or not walked right up to that powder keg and flicked a lighter. By all accounts, Punk was in one of those moods. You know the ones. The moods where he's already decided he's the smartest person in the building, where every word out of his mouth carries that razor-edged condescension, where he speaks to people not as equals but as props in his own personal story. He'd already had words with at least one other person backstage earlier in the evening, apparently making it very clear that he felt certain decisions being made were beneath him, that certain people on the card didn't deserve the spots they were getting. And apparently, his comments made their way through the locker room the way comments always do in wrestling, fast, slightly distorted, and landing with maximum impact. And then, at some point during the evening, Finn Bálor came around that corner. Now picture this hallway. It's one of those narrow backstage corridors barely wide enough for two people to pass each other comfortably. Catering is somewhere down the hall. You can hear the distant boom of pyro from the arena floor. Road cases line the walls. And there, in this unremarkable stretch of concrete and fluorescent lighting, two of the most accomplished, most prideful wrestlers on the planet come face to face. Those who witnessed what happened next described the first few seconds as almost surreal, because it started quietly. Finn didn't come in hot. He didn't come in yelling. He walked up to CM Punk calm and collected, the kind of calm that, if you know anything about Finn Bálor, is actually far more terrifying than if he'd come in screaming. Because when Finn is calm like that, it means the decision has already been made. The storm is already there. It's just waiting. Punk, being Punk, opened his mouth first. And whatever he said, and accounts vary on the exact words, the gist of it was dismissive, condescending. The kind of thing that CM Punk says when he wants to establish dominance without technically doing anything that could get him in trouble. A verbal jab designed to put Finn in his place. To remind him of the hierarchy, real or imagined, that Punk believes exists in that locker room. Finn let him finish. And then Finn Bálor looked CM Punk dead in the eyes and responded. Now I cannot tell you word for word what was said, but people who were there say that what came out of Finn Bálor's mouth was surgical. It was precise. It was the kind of response that didn't just answer Punk, it dismantled him, point by point. It addressed every assumption Punk had made, every slight, every political move Finn had observed over the weeks leading up to this moment. And Finn delivered it all in that quiet, measured voice that somehow carries more weight than any amount of screaming ever could. And here's where it escalated. Because CM Punk, to his credit or maybe his detriment, is not someone who simply accepts losing a verbal exchange. So he stepped forward, physically, into Finn's space. An old power move. A way of saying, without words, you don't want this. Finn Bálor did not step back. Not an inch. And that's the moment, right there, that witnesses say changed the entire energy of the confrontation. Because suddenly it wasn't just words anymore. Suddenly two professional wrestlers who know exactly what the human body is capable of are standing close enough to feel each other breathing, and every single person in that hallway knows that one wrong move, one wrong word, 1 second of lost control, and this becomes something very, very different. Security was nearby. A couple of people started moving closer. And then Finn did something nobody expected. He smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not a nervous smile. The smile. The one that Finn Bálor gives when he is completely and utterly unafraid. The smile that, if you followed his career, you have seen right before something devastating happens. And he said reportedly, calmly, clearly something along the lines of, "You've been doing this for a long time. You know exactly what I am. So let's not pretend." And CM Punk said nothing. Let me say that again for the people in the back. CM Punk, the voice of the voiceless, the man who built a career on never shutting up, the man who turned monologues into an art form, had nothing to say. The silence stretched. It lasted only a few seconds in reality. But everyone there said it felt like an eternity. And then, whether it was a choice, a calculation, or genuine recognition of what he was looking at, Punk broke eye contact first. He walked away. And Finn Bálor stood in that hallway, perfectly still, and watched him go. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, okay, so it was a heated argument. These things happen in wrestling all the time. Why does this matter? Why is this the story that Wrestling Impact is breaking down tonight? Because of what it represents. Because of what it signals for the future. When CM Punk walks away from a confrontation, that is not a footnote. That is a headline. Because Punk does not walk away. Punk does not disengage. Punk does not let someone else have the last word. That is not who he is. That has never been who he is throughout his entire career. So for Finn Bálor, who by the way has never been considered the so-called political heavyweight that Punk is, to back Punk down in that corridor, that tells you everything you need to know about where Finn Bálor is right now mentally, emotionally, and professionally. Finn is not playing. He is not performing. He is not doing this for the crowd or the cameras or the narrative. In that moment, Finn Bálor was simply himself, and that was more than enough to make one of the most formidable men in the business think twice. And the fallout from this? It's already rippling outward. People in that locker room saw what happened. In a world where perception is everything, where the hierarchy of a locker room can shift overnight based on a single moment, what Finn Bálor did in that hallway is going to have consequences for Punk's standing, for Finn's trajectory, and for whatever inevitable collision course these two men are now on. Because make no mistake, this is not over. This is not the end of anything. If anything, what happened in that corridor is the beginning. CM Punk does not forget. He does not forgive. He does not move on. He files it away, he lets it simmer, and then he waits for the exact right moment to respond. That's his nature. That's his process. And Finn Bálor knows it. Which is why, sources say, Finn Bálor is not concerned. Not even a little. And honestly, after what we just described, can you blame him? This rivalry, and make no mistake, it is now officially a rivalry, has every ingredient for something legendary. You have Punk, the calculating veteran who has been to the top of this industry multiple times and clawed his way back every time he fell. And you have Finn, the quiet storm who has spent years watching, learning, and waiting for his moment to announce himself as not just a player in this game but the player. The confrontation backstage was round 1, and round 1 went to the Prince. What happens in round 2? That's the question every single wrestling fan should be asking themselves right now. How does Punk respond? Does he go political? Does he try to use his influence to get ahead of the narrative? Or does he do what he does best and step into that ring and try to prove with his body what he couldn't prove with his words in that hallway? And if it does come to a match, if these two men stand across from each other in the middle of that squared circle with all of this history, all of this tension, all of this pride on the line, my friends, that is a match that will define careers. That is a match that people will reference for years. That is the kind of match that reminds everyone in the world why we fell in love with professional wrestling in the first place. The storytelling, the emotion, the stakes, the moment where everything you've built comes together in one explosive, unforgettable collision. We are not there yet, but we are closer than we've ever been. And when it happens, and it will happen, you are going to want to be right here on Wrestling Impact when we break it all down. So if you are not subscribed yet, right now is the moment. Tap that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Because this story is just getting started and you do not want to miss a single chapter. And if you've been riding with us for a while, drop something in the comments right now. Tell me, who do you think comes out on top when Finn Bálor and CM Punk finally have their moment? Who wins? Who walks out standing? This community has the hottest wrestling takes on the internet, and I want to hear yours. Until next time, stay passionate, stay loud, and never stop believing in the power of this sport we love. This has been Wrestling Impact. We'll see you in the next one.